Charles Taylor stood in the marble foyer of his mother's mansion, staring at his phone. The cleaning lady had just sent him a photo that made his blood run cold. It was his mother's bedroom, pills scattered across the nightstand, an untouched breakfast tray from 3 days ago, and his mother's frail hand barely visible in the frame, reaching toward nothing. The text below read, "Mr. Taylor, please come. She asked me to tell you she's ready to go. Welcome to Kindness Arena. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen connections that change lives, please help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter and deserve to be heard by hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, comment your thoughts, where you're watching from, and share it with someone who needs it to stay motivated. Your support keeps these powerful, true stories alive." Charles had built an empire. At 42, his name was synonymous with success, tech innovations, charitable foundations, magazine covers. But as he raced through midday traffic in his Bentley, none of that mattered. His mother was dying, and he hadn't truly seen her in months. When he burst through the bedroom door, he expected to find Agnes in crisis. Instead, he found her sitting up in bed, wearing the pearl necklace he'd bought her for Christmas, still in its velvet box, price tag attached. Diana, the cleaning lady, sat beside her, holding her hand. "You came," Agnes whispered, her voice paper-thin. "Mom, what's happening?" Diana said. "I asked her to lie," Agnes interrupted, her eyes sharper than they'd been in years. "It was the only way you'd come during business hours." The words hit like a slap. Charles looked at Diana, who stood quietly, gathering cleaning supplies that didn't need gathering. "I'll give you privacy," Diana said softly. "No." Agnes's grip tightened on Diana's hand. "Stay. I want my son to meet the person who actually knows me." Agnes Taylor had everything money could buy and nothing that mattered. The 20-room mansion echoed with silence. Her son visited on Sundays, always glancing at his watch, always taking calls. Her friends from the country club were dead or dying. Her body was failing, knees that wouldn't bend, hands that trembled, a heart that skipped beats like a scratched record. The parade of nurses came and went. They were efficient, professional, and treated her like a diagnosis. They checked vitals, dispensed pills, and left her alone with her thoughts that grew darker as the walls closed in. Then Diana arrived. She was the cleaning service's third attempt at finding someone who'd stay. The first two quit within weeks. Agnes had made sure of it. She didn't want strangers touching her things, pitying her, witnessing her decay. Diana was different. She didn't arrive with pity in her eyes or false cheerfulness in her voice. She arrived with a mop, a bucket, and a story. "Mrs. Taylor," she'd said on that first day, "I'm going to tell you about my daughter. She's 7, and this morning she put her shoes on the wrong feet on purpose because she said it felt adventurous. Then you can tell me if I'm fired or not." Agnes had been so surprised, she'd laughed. Actually laughed. It felt foreign in her throat. Diana didn't clean like the others. She cleaned like someone who understood that a home was more than surfaces and corners. She noticed that Agnes kept all her photo albums in chronological order except one, the one from 1982, the year her husband died. Diana found it shoved behind others, spine cracked. She didn't mention it. She simply left it on Agnes's nightstand one morning with a note. "Some years are harder to look at than others, but they still belong to you." Agnes found herself crying over those photos for the first time in 40 years. Diana brought her tea without being asked and sat quietly while Agnes remembered what it felt like to be loved. Diana noticed Agnes stop going to the sunroom. When she asked why, Agnes admitted the stairs hurt too much. The next week, Diana had rearranged the entire first floor. "Now you have a sunroom," she said, pointing to the conservatory off the kitchen that had been used for storage. Closer to the tea, Diana noticed Agnes wore the same gray cardigan every day. "My daughter says gray is the color of giving up," Diana mentioned casually while dusting. The next day, Agnes wore purple. Diana noticed. "Now that's a woman who's still fighting," she'd said with a smile. But the real change came on a Tuesday afternoon when Diana found Agnes crying in the bathroom, unable to get up from the toilet. Most people would have looked away, would have gotten help, would have preserved Agnes's dignity through distance. Diana did none of those things. She walked in, knelt down, and said, "My mother needed help too at the end. I wasn't there. Let me be here for you." She helped Agnes up, helped her clean herself, helped her maintain the one thing she had left, her humanity. Agnes wept in Diana's arms. "I'm so ashamed." "Of what? Being human? Getting old? Needing help?" Diana stroked her hair. "Mrs. Taylor, shame is for things we do wrong. You've done nothing wrong except survive long enough to need someone. And I'm honored to be that someone." After that day, everything changed. Diana started arriving earlier. She brought her daughter, Maya, on weekends. The little girl would sit with Agnes and read her schoolwork aloud, asking for feedback on her spelling. Agnes, a former English teacher, would correct gently, and Maya would beam. Diana discovered Agnes had been a painter. The art supplies were in the attic, untouched for decades. She brought them down, set up an easel in the conservatory. "Even if your hands shake, they can still create," she said. Agnes painted for the first time in 30 years. The paintings were messy, imperfect, and beautiful. Diana hung them in the hallway, where Charles would see them on his Sunday visits. He never commented. Diana noticed Agnes hadn't left the house in 8 months. She arranged for a wheelchair, bundled Agnes in blankets, and took her to the park. They fed ducks. Agnes felt the sun on her face and remembered what it meant to be part of the world. Diana learned Agnes's husband had loved jazz. She played Ella Fitzgerald while she cleaned. Agnes would hum along, her eyes bright with memories Diana was helping her reclaim. But most importantly, Diana talked to her. Really talked. About everything and nothing. About Diana's struggles as a single mother, her fears, her dreams. About Agnes's past, her regrets, her joys. They weren't employers and employees. They were two women sharing their humanity. Charles noticed his mother seemed different during his Sunday visits, but he attributed it to new medication. He never asked. It was Agnes's 84th birthday. Charles had sent an extravagant bouquet and a card signed by his assistant. He'd be by on Sunday, he texted. Agnes sat in her wheelchair, looking at flowers from a son who'd forgotten to come himself. Diana found her like that, silent tears streaming down her face. That's when Diana made the call. Not to tell Charles his mother was dying, but to force him to see she was alive and that he was missing it. Now, standing in his mother's bedroom, Charles watched Agnes hold Diana's hand like a lifeline. "This woman," Agnes said, her voice gaining strength, "knows my favorite tea is Earl Grey with honey. She knows I like to paint in the morning when the light is right. She knows I'm afraid of dying alone in this big, empty house. She knows me, Charles. When did you stop knowing me?" Charles felt his throat tighten. I've been busy, building the business for you." "For me?" Agnes's laugh was bitter. "I don't need more money, Charles. I'm drowning in money. I need my son. I visit every Sunday. You visit your obligation. You check a box. You assuage your guilt." Agnes's hand trembled. "This woman cleans my home for $11 an hour, and she's given me more love than you've shown in years." Charles looked at Diana, who stood quietly, tears in her eyes. "How?" he asked her. "How did you—" "I saw her," Diana said simply. "Not as a job or a duty or an old woman. I saw Agnes, a person who's lived and loved and hurt and survived. I saw someone who still had so much to give if someone would just receive it." Charles sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to watch you fade." "So you chose not to watch at all," Agnes said softly. "But Charles, I'm not fading. Not anymore. Diana helped me remember I'm still here. Still alive. Still worth knowing." "What do I do?" Charles whispered. "How do I fix this?" Agnes reached out her shaking hand. "Start by staying. Really staying. Not Sunday visits. Not an obligation. Stay because you want to know me again." Charles canceled his afternoon. Then this evening. Then the next day, Diana taught him how his mother took her tea. How to help her stand without making her feel helpless. How to listen when she talked about the past without checking his phone. He learned his mother had been painting. That she loved jazz. That she fed ducks in the park. All things he'd have known if he'd been present. Over the following weeks, Charles restructured his life. He moved his office closer to home. He had dinner with his mother 3 times a week. He hired Diana full-time, not as cleaning help, but as a companion, at a salary that finally reflected her worth. But more than that, he learned. He sat with his mother while she painted. He played Ella Fitzgerald and watched her face light up. He brought Maya small gifts and listened to her read her homework. He learned that love wasn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about showing up, being present, seeing someone. Agnes Taylor lived another 3 years. Not in loneliness, but in connection. Not in a mansion that felt like a tomb, but in a home filled with laughter and music and paintings and life. When she finally passed, peacefully in her sleep, she left Charles a letter. "My dearest son, Diana didn't save my life. She reminded me I still had one worth living. But you, my darling boy, you learned to see it too. That's the greatest gift any child can give their parents. To be witnessed, to be known, to matter. I leave you not my money, you have enough. I leave you the lesson Diana taught us both, that the most valuable thing we can give another person is our presence, our attention, our love. Don't wait for a cleaning lady to teach you what matters. You know now. Live it. Asterisk, all my love, Mom." Charles read the letter in the conservatory where his mother had spent her final years painting. Beside him sat Diana and Maya. Around him hung his mother's artwork, imperfect, shaking, beautiful testament to a life that had been saved not by medicine or money, but by someone who cared enough to see. He picked up a brush and a blank canvas. His hands shook. "Even if your hands shake," Diana said softly, echoing what she'd once told Agnes, "they can still create." Charles painted, and for the first time in years, he truly saw what mattered. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness is never wasted and that even a broken path can lead to beautiful places and change of lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Arena, because your support keeps stories like this alive and spreading. Tell us in the comment what you would have done differently if you were the maid. Would you have called her son? Or has a stranger's kindness ever changed your life in ways you didn't expect? We'd love to hear your story.